Hey everyone, it's Jay. So, what should we do today? I don't know. Let's see, what is today? Oh, today's Sunday. How about some straight pull? So I'm going to do a little warm up here, and then I'm going to hit the rack with some straight pull, and let's see how we do. So just warm up to start. So this is how I warm up when I'm not doing drills ahead of time, and I'm just going to play. So I only had about an hour on Sunday to play. I had to go meet somebody. So what I do is I throw 3 balls out on the table, and I shoot them in rotation. So here it would be the 6th and the 7th and the 9th. And what I'm doing with this is a couple of things. One, I'm working on my stroke, but 2, I'm also working on pattern recognition, making sure that my mind is straight on thinking about how to play the balls. And then what I do is I run the 3 balls, and then every time I run out, I'm going to add a ball. So the next rack, if I run this out, the next one will be 4 balls. And I'm just throwing them on the table randomly. The next one will be 4, and then 5, and then 6, and I'll keep growing it until I miss. And when I miss a shot, I'll leave that ball on the table, continue to finish out the pattern that I'm on, unless that ball is blocking the pattern. Then the next rack after that, I take 1 ball off. So if I was shooting 5 balls and I miss one, I'll finish out the 5-ball pattern, and then I will the next rack I'll be shooting 4 balls, and so on, until I'm comfortable with the pattern. Now there's no real set goal when I'm doing this, especially before straight pool. This is kind of a 9-ball-ish drill. The main thing here is that I'm comfortable with the way I'm shooting, and that I'm seeing the patterns that I need to shoot to be able to get out. And that's really what I'm doing here. So this is all just, this is only going to go on for about 10 minutes here. It's just to get me into that thought process, and to get my stroke evened out if it's got any issues with it. Okay, so you see I got 4 of them, so now I'm just going to go around. I'm going to throw 5, keep throwing balls on the table until I have 5. One thing you'll notice is the 9 ball is always on the table. I do that because it's easy to lose focus when you're shooting the 9, playing 9 ball. And so putting the 9 on the table every time just reinforces that the pattern finishes with the 9. Okay, so I'm just going to let you watch, and then I'll talk again when we get to the straight pool. If you want to skip to the straight pool, it is at about 7.5 minutes. So if you want to just skip past the warm-up. So I actually kind of forgot that I had missed the 8 ball, and I went ahead and threw 7 on the table anyhow. But it doesn't matter. This is really my last rack of warm-up. I'm feeling pretty good about how I'm shooting, so it really, in the long run, didn't matter that I screwed up here and forgot to take a ball off. There should have been 5 on the table, not 7. So I'm going to miss the 8, and I think I left it in the video. When I miss this 8, it's because I don't get the leave that I wanted here. I wanted to be much closer. I'm using top left English to try to come around the table for the 9. I missed this, and so I set it up again, and I shoot it 2 or 3 times until I get it right. Okay. I am sufficiently warmed up, so now it's time for some straight pull. I hit that break so hard. I got really lucky that the 5 ball went down the table with the cue ball. And this is a fairly straightforward rack. Of course, you know by now that this being the first rack, I'm going to mess it up somehow. And I'll point that out when it happens. So when you're watching this, you'll notice that I have a way that I go about straight pull racks. Basically, I start with the break. I want to get the top, anything that's above the side pockets cleared, and anything that's below the rack cleared. So when you see this, I'll always either clear below the rack or the top of the table first, and then I'll use what I'm doing to get to the other one. So if I'm clearing the bottom of the rack, I'll clear the bottom of the rack, and with the last ball I'll go up the table for anything that's beyond the side pockets. And I do that because those are the 2 danger areas in straight pull. Now this was an interesting shot. So I've got the 6 ball, it's straight in, but of course straight in shots, when you draw them, you get off to the side a little bit in either direction, and your cue ball can go wherever. And I hit that exactly right to get through the gap between the 7 and the 1. So that gave me a little bit of confidence that I was shooting the way that I meant to be shooting. And so here you can see the 2 ball is a potential break. It's a little bit high on the rack. The 1 ball is a potential break, or it was until I bumped it. It's still kind of a potential break, but a better break here is to get up by the side pocket on the left, roll the 3 into the corner, and leave the cue ball basically even with the 7. You can see where I'm aiming there, and shoot the 7 in the side and run straight into the rack. That side break, I like that break. It's a little bit tough to pull off, and you have less control of the cue than you'd like, so there are other breaks that are better. But it's a good break if you are too high on the rack and too low on the rack. Like the 1 is too low on the rack, I'll just nip the corner. And the 7 is too high on the rack, I run the risk of missing the rack entirely or sticking to the top of the rack. So the side break is what I decide I'm going to play for. And then I screw it up. And now I'm going to have to run the 7 up the table and play the cue into the 3, off the rail, and into the rack, which is not my favorite break. It does work, but it's not my favorite. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't have to worry about it. I just miss. Okay, on to the next one. And I'm playing with some different breaks here. You're going to see me using draw in my break, which is situational, and it does stick me a couple times. Okay, so I've really got, I've got the 5 and the 2 that are above, but I decide to clear the bottom of the rack first because that 9 ball and the 3 ball are problem balls. They block other balls from going in, so I want to get the 9 and the 3 off the table. This bridge is a little weird because of my hand issues. So I only bridge with 1 finger on the table. Okay, so I get the 8, and I'm really trying to get to that 3. The 10, since it went by, I went ahead and took it, and now I'm going to get the 3 out of the way to try to open the rack a little bit more. Or do I do the 3 here? I think, yeah, I do. This was a really, really awkward shot, stance-wise. So I take the 3, and I really would have preferred to take the 12 out at the same time while I was down under the rack, but it wasn't really meant to be. So now I've got the opportunity. I've got a pretty straight-in shot on the 5, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that 5 and that 2, get them off the table so that I can just work in the 1 area. Now, I'm not touching the 6 yet because it's the closest thing I have to a break. I want to make another break before I go after the 6. But I put the 13 up the table. I was kind of hoping to run into the 14-7, and I missed it. I ended up running into the 13, send it up the table, so I'll take it out. And I'm going to come back up. I don't want to use the 6. I want to use the 15, but it's kind of a weird place here. So the right thing to do is take the 15, get on the other side of these balls, and shoot them in, because the 15 is blocking all 3 of those balls. Unfortunately, I don't like the angle, so I take the 6 instead. And the 14 can be used to bump the 7 out to potentially make a break shot. Or I can get an angle on the 11 that allows me to bump the 14 out for a break shot. There's a couple ways to manufacture a break shot here. So I bank the 15. So I really didn't have anything good with anything else. And now I've got to cut the 11 in or the 7. I think I was looking at this and the 7 was just too tight. It had to be perfect to make the 7. Yeah, this was a very iffy shot, so I went ahead and went after the 11. Come around the table to get back on the 7 and the 14, but I missed the 11 and I scratched. Okay, next rack. This is a pretty good break. I've got a little separation everywhere. I've got a couple of balls that are up the table a little bit. I'm going to go for the ones up the table first. I really don't have a good shot down on the bottom of the table, so I'm going to play the 9, and I'm going to run into the 8. I have no choice. I want to get the speed right. I just want to bump the 8 a little bit to give myself some room to work. Or is that the 7? That's the 7 up there. So the 7 ball is the one at the top of the table. So I just want to bump the 7 enough to give me some room to work, and then I'll come back up the table and get under the rack. So I hit it soft. I want to bump it. I do bump it, but I'm right up against it. So I'm going to take the 12, and I'm going to come back and try to get on the 7 again. I still want to get that 7 out of there. And I come up, and this time I bump it the way that I wanted to. I get enough room to work to be able to make the shot and control the cue to get back up the table. A little awkward because I'm reaching over the table. You don't get your normal stroke that way. So the good news is I don't have to do anything fancy with it. If I did, I would have got the bridge, but I just pull it out for the 5. I'm going to take the 5 out and use it to get up the table. I hit this a little bit further than I wanted to. I basically wanted to be straight in on the 3 so I could just draw it a couple inches and get on the 8. So I figure, well, with the 8 there, the 8's an insurance ball, meaning that if I hit the 3 badly and get stuck in the rack, which I actually did, the 8's there to bail me out. So it's a good time to hit the rack when you have a ball like that 8 was, where it kind of, no matter what you do in the rack, you're going to have a shot. Okay, want to spread them out a little bit. I use the side pocket to do it. Cue ball kind of dies on me. I wanted it to come around. You can see all the side spin I had on it. So now I have a break shot in the 11. I have the 14 and the 13. Either one of those could be a key ball. The 6 could be a key ball to get on the 11. I've decided that I want the 14 and the 13 to be my key balls. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to get rid of that 10 and the 12, get those off the table, and then focus on getting my lead on the 11. Nice easy roll. This one I went a little too far with that top English, or with that roll on the after the 11. I really wanted to be in a place where I could just stop the cue, shoot the 14 in the side, roll for the 6, and then use the 13. But I got a little out of line. If I try to stop this, the cue ball is going to drift up and to the right. So I decide I'm going to go after the 6. I bumped the 14, which is okay. I'm in good shape now. I've got the 13. Yep, bump the 14. But I missed the 13. And just for myself, I knocked the 13 in, and these don't count. I'm just proving to myself that I would have gotten the break shot that I was planning on getting. And there it is. That's the break that I wanted, and I got perfect on it. Okay, next rack. So again, using the side break. This time I hit it with bottom right. I wanted to see what that would do. The cue ball stuns and bottom left. Cue ball stuns, leaving me no choice but to take this combination that you see. Now I don't want to get stuck under the rack here. It's really easy to shoot this 2 and end up where you don't have a good shot on the 8 and end up having to shoot up the table. So I'm going to go ahead and guarantee that I get out with bottom right English to come up the table, with the goal that I've got to clear out that 3, that 15, and that 8 to make room for the stuff that's in the center. And I've still got stuff up the table. I've got the 1 ball up the table. So here I can either go after the bottom of the table, the 3, the 15, and the 8, or I can go after the 1, and I decide to go after the bottom of the table. So this was a really, really bad shot. Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But I get lucky, I don't scratch. And the 8's makeable, as you see. The problem with the 8 is that I'm going to hit the 11 and it gets up there, and now I've got to deal with a problem that I just created, and I've already taken most of my free balls off the table. So how do we get to the 11-1? And that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking, I'll come around the table and hit it. I don't quite get there. I don't have a shot that'll make the 1. So I'm going to have to try something else. I do have a combination here on the 5-9. It's dead in the pocket. I just have to cut the 5 like I'm trying to make it. And I take advantage of that to split the rack out. So now I have exactly one problem, that 11-1. So I'm going to try to come up off the 5 and go around 3 rails behind it. And I'm going to play this with speed so that if I miss it, I come back down for the 6 and hopefully have an angle on it again. And I do miss it, and I do come down for the 6, and I do have what looks like the angle. So I can use top right English on this and get up to that and bump the 1. I'm going to hit the 1 if I do this right. But you're going to see I hit this too hard. And by hitting it too hard, the cue ball goes too far up the table before the top English takes effect, and it hits the 12. I now have no break shot. Closest thing I have to a break shot is to get up between the 14 and the side pocket near the rail and try to use top English, but I'm still dealing with this problem. So I get the problem out. Okay, now I'm actually in decent shape. The 11 only has the long shot, but if you look at where it's at, if I get that long shot, I can lay the cue up against the rail right next to where the 11 is, where I've got my finger, and I'll have a shot on the 14 that leads into the rack. That's what I'm trying to accomplish here. Okay, I make the shot. I get my leave on the 13. I've got the angle that I need to be able to roll up and shoot the 11 up the table. I just need to execute now. And I do several things wrong. I forget to put the right hand English that I needed to avoid hitting the 14. I hit it exactly the right speed to get behind the 14. I've left myself no shot on this. I'm thinking that I might be able to see just enough of it to cut it in the side, but even so, it's going to be an ugly shot. It's not there, so I have to cut the 14 up the table. I'm not going to have a break shot at all. The best I can do is try to get above the 11. And yeah, I rush the shot and it just blows up on me. So next rack, you're going to see a recurring theme here. I keep getting down to the end of the rack. The good news is I'm consistently getting to the end of the rack. I'm not making very many mistakes on the execution of individual shots. But where I'm getting into trouble is at the end of the rack. And by the way, no balls above the side, so I just go straight to the bottom of the rack, start dealing with these. That was not a great shot. I should stop that. I didn't think it would roll as far as it did. But you're going to see me continue to get to the end of the rack and then struggle with the break shot for the next rack. I make some really good shots along the way getting there, but I struggle with the break for the next rack, and really that's what straight pool's about, is that break. If you just throw 15 random balls on the table, 15 balls on the table, and shoot them in any order, if they're spread out, they're not that hard to make, unless you just get yourself in trouble. But as you get closer and closer to the end of the rack, you have less options, and as you have less options, the part of the game that's strategic starts to come into play. So here I was playing for that 4 because it gives me a break shot, or because it breaks out those balls. I hit it hard because I know that I'm going to hit it full, and when you hit a ball that's in a group like that full, there's a good chance of just getting stuck, and you don't want that to happen. So I hit it pretty hard. Notice the cue ball didn't travel very far. That's because it would have stuck in that rack. Okay, so here I've got the 5 as a break shot. I can use any one of these balls as my key ball. 13's probably the best key ball there. 13 in the side. So that's what I'm going to play for. I'm going to roll after the 8, and I'm going to try to get on the line you just saw me place the cue on to roll the 2 into the side. And I get perfectly on that line. That's exactly where I wanted to be. Could have been off the rail a little bit, but that's okay. Now I'm going to roll up. I can't slow roll that. I need some angle. Now, when you're setting up your side brakes, rather than just stopping or drawing or anything like that, a lot of times it's better to come off the end rail and go 2 rails to your brake shot, just like this, because it puts you in line really quickly. Now, I did get too much space here. I did not want that much space for this brake. I skipped the part about racking. So I got on my brake perfectly, and then I missed it. But now I've gotten past the getting set up for the brake issues, and now I just need to make the brake shots. All of these have been potentially 2, 3, 4 rack runs that I've just fallen apart at the end of the rack, and I need to get past that. So you can see I've got 1 ball above the side pocket. That's the 14 or the 12 ball up there, I think. 10 ball. I'm working under the rack, and then I'm going to go up for that 10 after I get done under the rack. I'm still breaking things apart. Again, I had the 7 ball. That was what I was leaving, so I didn't care that I was up against that 12. Okay, so now everything's all spread out nice. The 11 is a brake shot. I'm going to, since I'm right here, I'm going to start working on clearing out around the 11. I want to isolate it so nothing's near it. That will make it easier for me to ensure that I avoid moving it around. I want to keep it where it is. I want to keep the 11 right where it is. Get rid of everything around it. So I have a choice of the 3 or the 5 ball here, or the 15. I don't want to shoot the 3 because that's going to bump the 11. I want to clear the 15, but I still also have the 10 up the table. So I'm kind of thinking about which way I want to approach this. I know the 3's off the table because I don't want to bump the 11. And going forward off the 3 leaves me nothing. So I'm going to take the 5 out. Set myself up for the 10, which will in turn give me the 13 or the 2. So the 3 ball is definitely my key ball at this point. The 15 is actually a decent key ball also, but the 3 is a better one. So I'm going to take the 2, the 13, the 15, and then I'm going to try to leave the 3 for a shot in the side where I can get a nice angle on the 11. And hey, I didn't get the angle for the 3 in the side. I tried to force this, and I probably should have let the cue ball drift naturally up for the 3 in the bottom left corner. I don't think I do. I think I try to force this to give myself a shot on the 3 in the side. Yeah, I do. And I just screwed that up. I don't know what I was thinking there. Now I've got a shot on the 3, but it's going to hit the 11. And so the 11 is going to go down to the bottom of the table. So now I have to play the 3 in the pocket, the 11 to the bottom of the table, and the cue to the bottom of the table where I'll have a shot on the 11. I do have a shot on the 11, but not a good one. So here I go up, and there's a break shot that you can use at the beginning of the game that takes the 9 off the end rail and you throw it back into the corner up at the top of the table. That's the break that I'm going to try here. Don't know what happened to my video there. All right, next rack. Again, I overhit this cue ball. It goes way down the table, but fortunately, so does the 6 ball. Now I'm going to draw this 6 ball and come back up the table, so that'll clear the top of the table if I shoot the 6. So I'm going to draw to get back up under the rack. I'm anticipating that this is going to make contact with the 13, which will give me either the 11, the 4, or worst case, the 1 in the side. But somehow, I managed to get through everything, bounce off the 13, and freeze to the 14. Okay, fortunately, the 3 ball got bumped enough that it's not that bad a cut into the corner. And I've got about half a pocket. The 4 ball's got a piece of that pocket. Or I could play the 13 up the table, which is what I'm looking at there. But I'd much rather shoot the close shot with the 3 than shoot the 13 with the long shot and the slim angle to get it. So I make the 3. Yay. And now I've got the 15 as a break ball, and I really don't want to touch it. It's in a perfect break position. The 1 is a perfect key ball. So I'm looking at kicking that 4 off the rail. Not real happy with that. Not a hard shot, but the 9's got just enough of me that I'm going to have to slide the cue and swerve it around the 9 to make the 4. And I think I ultimately decide to sacrifice my key ball and cut the 1 in the side. Okay, so I did not expect that cue ball to make it through all of that without touching anything. I was pretty sure I was going to touch either the 14 or the 11, and neither one happened. So now I'm going to take my 4. Luckily it's there. I've got the 11 as an insurance ball, and I need to get the 11 out of there anyhow, so that works out perfect. I stay under the rack to get rid of the 14 because that's my last ball under the rack, and then I've cleared that area. So I kind of have a key ball in the 10, but I don't like doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 10 and the 8 here, get rid of that side. That'll help me isolate that 15. Now the 13 goes, the 7 does not. Actually, I take that back. The 7 does go. So clear shot on anything I get in that line. I think I decide on the 13 here. Yeah. Okay, so I get the 13. Not where I want to be. I don't want to shoot the 15, so I'm going to get out the bridge and I'm going to shoot the 7. So now, the 12 ball is a good key ball. The 9 ball is a decent key ball. The 2 ball is a good key ball. My favorite of the 3 is probably the 2 in the side on the right. But the pro way to play this is the 12 and bring the Q2 rails up above the 15. Now that said, I'm looking at this. I don't like the 9 from here because there's not a really good leave on anything unless you drift across for the 2. So I go ahead and take the 12. And I'm going to use a 9 as the key. So I'm going to roll the 2 in the side, and I'm going to roll up for the 9. Okay, so this is perfect. I'm going to cut the 9 in the side, and I'm going to come 3 rails to my leave on the 15. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I overhit it. I hit it a little bit further than I wanted to, but I've got a great angle on this break shot. All I have to do is make the 15, and I'm in good shape. So I'm going to skip the racking part again. So while I'm doing this, just a quick note. I talked to Pat Fleming with AccuStats yesterday, and I'm getting copies of the AccuStats videos that they have for the U.S. Open I played in 2001. I'm kind of hopeful. One of the matches that they have on video, I was actually on the table next to the one that they were taking the video of, and I'm kind of hoping that I'll see some incidental stuff. And I've got permission from Pat to use those videos for commentary. So this was the Open that Corey Deuel won. All right, so here after the break, I kind of screw myself. This was me playing with that break shot. I leave myself this 2-11 combo, or I can take the 10 all the way up the table, and those are the only shots I have on this table. And I decide that the combination, even though it's awkward because you tend to overcut this a lot of times, I decide that that's better. I get stuck in the rack. I have to play the 5 all the way up the table. And I do, and I'm in good shape now. Now I'm out from under the rack. I've made that 5 ball, and I'm ready to start running the rack again. I'm on a good run. And so the 14 goes, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out now. Now I've got this fairly straightforward shot on the 2, and then I can roll up for the 13, which will give me some options. The 2, I just dog it.